90 days ago, I started with these 3 shrimp jars, where I bred different colored shrimp, and the results honestly shocked me. So let me take you back to where it all started. I found these 3 jars at my local shop. Each jar is 4 gallons, and with shrimp, you can safely keep around 5 to 10 shrimp per gallon, so we can comfortably start with 10 in each jar without overcrowding them. And my plan is simple. I'm going to take 10 of each shrimp and mix them together, because I kept getting a ton of comments asking me to do the shrimp test in my last video. But before we add any shrimp, we need to build these tanks properly. At first, I added some old aqua soil to lay a solid foundation. I like using aged aqua soil because it already has beneficial bacteria built up inside, which helps jumpstart the nitrogen cycle. And since this is going to be a no filter setup, the bacteria is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. After that, it was time to add the hardscape, which is honestly my favorite part, because this is where the tank actually starts to come together. I grabbed some pre-soaked driftwood, and in my opinion, it's always best to pre-soak it, because otherwise, it's going to release a lot of tannins, like the river ecosystem video. Once I finished placing our driftwood, I added some dragonstone. I picked up these stones from my local rock store, and they literally had thousands of these rocks for sale. Dragonstone is literally perfect for shrimp tanks because it has a ton of little holes and textures, which creates more surface area for biofilm and beneficial bacteria. And in a shrimp tank, the shrimp are constantly grazing on biofilm, which basically turns the hardscape into an unlimited food source. Once we finished the scape, it was finally time to add some water. Since these are going to be no filter ecosystems, I'm not going to rush anything. I'm going to give these jars plenty of time to cycle and stabilize before we add the shrimp, because in small systems like these, patience is everything. So I added the lids, sealed everything up, and let the jars cycle. A couple weeks later, I came back, and honestly the jars were looking great. At this point, I decided to add some floating plants to give the shrimp extra cover. Floating plants are actually huge for shrimp tanks because not only do they make the tank look more natural, but they also act as a mini filter. They improve the overall water quality and makes the shrimp feel safer. Also with plants, it helps them breed a little faster, so I left the jars to continue cycling, and I'll be back to add our shrimp when ready. I came back a couple weeks later, and it was finally time to add our shrimp. So I went over to the giant shrimp ecosystem and carefully grabbed 10 of each color. In jar 1, we're going to be putting blue and yellow. In jar 2, we're going to be putting blue and red. And in jar 3, we're going to be putting yellow and red. Once I added them all in, they immediately started to explore their new home. Shrimp are naturally curious, so within minutes, they were climbing over the wood, picking at the rocks, and grazing across the glass. So I gave them a few days to settle in. And when I came back a couple days later, all 30 shrimp still looked to be alive, which is a good sign in a new setup. Although filming them through a curved glass is honestly harder than I thought, but I'm doing my best to get the clear results for you guys, so you can see everything I see. Right now we're at 30 shrimp, and while I'm excited for growing the colonies, I'm honestly more excited about the genetics, because when you mix different colored Neocaridina shrimp, you can sometimes get really cool color variations. However, over time, if you don't selectively breed them, the genetics usually revert back to a more wild type brown. So at the end of this experiment, we'll be gathering them all up and selling them to a local shop. But first, we're going to need some more babies to do that. I came back a week later, and I was going to feed them, but since the jars are so small, we don't have huge colonies yet, and it's actually better to let them graze naturally. Neocaridina shrimp are basically 24/7 cleanup crew. They eat biofilm, leftover food, and decaying matter before it can break down, which means in low stock setups like this, overfeeding can actually do more harm than good. So we'll leave our shrimp to just pick on the biofilm. And while I was looking at the jars, I finally spotted one. I found a pregnant yellow shrimp in jar 1, and when it comes to Neocaridina breeding, It's honestly crazy how fast it happens. Once a female molts, she releases pheromones into the water, and immediately the males go into search mode. She'll carry the eggs for about 2 to 3 weeks, consistently fanning the eggs to keep them oxygenated and clean. And then one day, a fully formed miniature shrimp just pops out. So we'll have to wait a couple more weeks to see what happens with our baby shrimp. When I checked back again, she was still carrying the eggs, and they actually look darker, which usually means the hatch day is getting closer. Even though everything looks stable in our jars, I decided to do a small water change just to be safe, because with pregnant shrimp especially, stability is everything. So I grabbed some tap water. Tap water straight from the faucet can be dangerous for shrimp, so conditioning it first is always a must to remove the chlorine and neutralize any ammonia. The fresh water helps dilute waste and keeps the ecosystem balanced, kind of like when it rains. After finishing the water change, I found our pregnant mama again, and she looks almost ready, and I'm hoping jar 2 and 3 will get some pregnant shrimp too. I came back to our jars, and I can't find our pregnant shrimp anywhere, so I started to look closer and started to see tiny little babies swimming around. Since the glass is curved, it's hard to get clear shots because they're so small, so it looks like our shrimp totals up to 45, and hopefully in the next week or two, we can get another couple pregnant shrimp. I came back to the jars, and it was time to feed our shrimp their first type of food. I grabbed some Fluval shrimp bites. I added a couple shakes into each jar, and these are perfect because when they hit the water, they spread out, giving each shrimp their own little piece, so they don't have to fight over the food. And while the shrimp were eating, I actually noticed something moving in jar number 2. There was a tiny baby shrimp swimming around. Its colors really hadn't come in yet, and it was hard to see, but it looks like we had a pregnant shrimp in the middle jar, and we didn't even know it yet. So with baby shrimp in jar number 1 and 2, it means our colony might be over 50 shrimp already, but we'll get a final count at the end of the video, when we pull all the shrimp out and get ready to sell them to the pet store. So for now, let's leave our shrimp to eat, and I'll come back in a little bit. I came back after some time, and the babies have started growing. They're still small, but now they're beginning to gain their color. So in a couple weeks, when these babies are fully grown, we'll be able to see if we accidentally created a brand new colored shrimp. And since the colonies have multiplied over the past weeks, it's important that we keep feeding them properly so they continue growing and breeding. I grabbed some high protein bloodworms, the same ones my axolotl Neptune loves, from the mr.tank video. I defrosted a small amount in a cup and added a couple pinches in each jar. These bloodworms are packed with protein and nutrients that will help our Neocaridina shrimp grow and strengthen our colony. I even found some of our shrimp fighting for the bloodworms in jar number 1, and when I came over to jar number 2, I spotted a lot of babies around the bloodworms. There's about 10 in this group. It's kind of hard to see them because their colors haven't come in, and the blue ones are really hard to see with the black substrate. But meanwhile in jar 3, our shrimp are enjoying the bloodworms, but it still doesn't look like we have any pregnant shrimp or babies. So I'll leave our shrimp to enjoy the bloodworms, and when I come back, we'll be pulling all of our shrimp out of the jars to see what we got. I came back after some time, and it's finally time to see what we got. It's gonna be hard to get every shrimp since some are microscopic. So I started scooping out all the adults I could find, and even some smaller juvenile. Once I finished scooping out all the shrimp, jar 1 had 47 shrimp, jar 2 had 23 shrimp, and jar 3 had 13 shrimp, for a grand total of 83 shrimp. And before we sell them, I found a green shaded one that came from our yellow and blue mix. I also found a really dark blue one that almost looked black, and I even found a pregnant shrimp at the end that's gonna help continue our shrimp colony. So I took a drive over, and the store owner told me that he could give me money or fish tanks for the shrimp. So I chose the fish tank bundle, and while I plan out what new animals will go in these tanks, watch one of these videos here.